So here's my basically brand new radiator. I'm glad I ran the hose through it. I ran it first in the top outlet or inlet, top inlet. Dirty water came out for, gosh, few too many seconds. And then I flipped it upside down and I put it in the bottom radiator hose. Kind of turned it every which way, sprayed water in the outlets and inlets to try and coax everything in there out of there. And definitely got dirty water coming out for a few seconds at each one. I mean, actually, the first time the most came out. After I did that, yeah, I hate using just tap water to run through this thing. You're supposed to use distilled water just because to stop rust, whatever, and might be why this thing's in this shape. You know, I know for a fact I've run tap water before, because sometimes times are dire. I need to put something in the radiator, because if not, you're going to blow up your engine, and you don't want to do that, and, you know, you just do what you got to do. After I ran the hose through it, and I was getting clear water out of all orifices, I then made sure to drain out as much as I could, as twisting, turning, putting this thing every which way, and I put it horizontal, like this, kind of like I had it when I did the vinegar. Put distilled water in it up until everything started coming out. Then tilted it every which way to make sure the distilled water's kind of getting in every crack, every crevice. And then I dumped all that out. So hopefully that will be good. I will definitely, once I get this engine running, hope I get this engine running, so I will say once I get this running, I'm going to put in a coolant system flush and run that possibly a few times until I'm getting clear out of that. Because, yeah, there's a bunch of junk in this. I'm sure there's junk everywhere else, but I felt like this probably had the most of it in there, and I want to get this out before I open up the system. So that will be the plan. Now if I can kind of look inside, it looks much better. Instead of seeing brownish red every time I look at every hole I look into, it has seen metal, so that is definitely positive. So hopefully that is helpful. Hopefully I didn't screw it up by putting in tap water, but you know what? Did it before. Thing's still going. Well, technically it's not going right now, but it was when I did it. So I need to check the fuel pump, and to check the fuel pump, you got to remove the fuel pump. I've already disconnected all the rubber hoses here. As you can see a bunch of clean lines. That's because I removed the rubber hoses. Probably should have removed them from this end of the fuel pump right on the other end, but you know, it was easier getting out that way. So to actually get the fuel pump out, so there's a snap ring in here. That is right there. Got a couple of tabs right around this ring, and I'm just fitting a screwdriver to it. I'm hitting it with a hammer. It's already turned. Like originally, this little tab was against this one. That's how you know you've turned it clockwise enough, just like this tab was against here. So I've already hit a little bit because it's been a while since I've done this, and I thought that was how you did it, but I wanted to make sure. I've not sprayed it or anything, so I'm glad it wasn't rusted or fused to it. And once this retainer ring is clear, this whole thing pulls up. So, quick update. This and this, those are not retaining tabs. I have no idea what they do. They're inconsequential. It's just a matter of this snap ring just hitting on this tab here. I thought these retaining tabs, they're not. They are nothing, I guess. Let's see, hold the camera and do this all at one time. You can see, yeah, I turned it and it is, well, I think it's clear. Should be clear. There we go. Prying it up. That snap ring is clear. And that cleared. There we go. Oh wow, there's some grossness to this. Hey, there's still fuel in the tank. I know that because it's nasty. Little sock. Doesn't want to come out. Doesn't look great. I mean, let's be honest, doesn't look great. And so that connector, that is the one that I screwed up before. So, you know, that is fun. I don't know if I can guess the orientation of what it was before and see if I can get this thing plugged up before. I'm just glad I didn't have a lot of trouble getting this thing out. I mean, this snap ring and everything went in pretty easily. Okay. So these tabs, they were just to orient the fuel pump itself in the right spot. Can I get it in the right spot? Feel confident I can. Yeah, there we go. It's in that snap ring. How does that go? Alright. All makes sense. That's good and wonderful. A lot of gravel here. The way these things go. Alright, I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Just a lot of gravel just gets lodged in there. I'm going to clean that up. Doesn't really matter if it goes in the tank or not, because all this gas needs to get dumped anyway, and so I'll be cleaning the tank. Pull the fuel pump all the way out. Now again, this rust does not look good, but one critical problem is, I guess this is maybe some kind of rubber boot that connects the pump to this thing. Notice, there's nothing there. I mean, it looks like that might have been rubber I don't know. It used to be something. It is nothing now. So that is a major problem that probably when it's just useless. I don't think you can buy just that boot with just the shape of what this thing looks like anyway. Probably in my best interest to get a new fuel pump altogether. I mean, just look at that. That is not something you think, oh yeah, I want to put that back in my car. I think that's going to run well. That with the boot issue and the sock completely deteriorated. I mean, I just couldn't get it out without shredding it, and that sock is very important. And you can see there's just a lot of gunk everywhere. So I think that new fuel pump is in my future. I've always heard that the Walbro pump is one to get, that getting replacements, even getting factory OEM units are no good. I put a Walbro on my orange S10 that I redid, and I never had any issues with that for the few years I had it, and Walbro's always been a good brand, so I might go that route. Price is always an issue. I don't remember, I mean, if I put the Walbro on my orange truck, I mean, I was poor back then, so it's probably not crazy expensive. Glad I pulled it out and didn't just go with it because it cannot be saved. And you know, I think about my wiring I pulled out, it doesn't really matter, you know, where that oriented, because I'll probably figure that out. But again, it doesn't really matter because the fuel pump ain't no good. That is a critical issue. And just getting the fuel pump in and out, you kind of got to wiggle it. You know, that is your float, tells you your gas tank level. Put that in first, and then the sock would go in, but the sock is, you know, sock got its own issues. Ooh, is that all the way ripped? Yeah, I don't want that to fall in there. Crap falling all over the place, isn't it? And then you just, alright, so then you can wiggle the whole thing in there. So these tabs I thought were retaining clips. They help you orient where the fuel pump goes because there's a notch on both sides. That's where your fuel pump goes. So you got it oriented the right way, so you want everything coming out here. That's that. And then that's just your retaining tab. And that orients a certain way. Let's see. Basically just kind of have to clear all these tabs in there. Like, see that, clear that, find the opening, clears that tab, that notch clears that tab, so on and so on. And then once it's in there, you would knock it clockwise to tighten it and hold your fuel pump in there. Last week, I was dropping the tank. This week, I'm working on the engine, just trying to get that ready to crank over, see what parts I need to replace. Hopefully not too many. I have a good idea what I'll be replacing. So what we've got here, I want to just see if I can turn the crank and make sure this engine turns over. I assume it's not seized, but it has been sitting, and again, I feel confident we're okay, but it's always good to double check. I don't want to start buying parts, because that's where I'm at, is to start buying parts. Don't be buying parts if the engine seized or there's issues. I want to make sure everything's good. So we're going to do that real quick. Alright, so it is a, what was it, 9/16 inch nut. I've got my wrench on there, as you can see. Can I hold the phone and turn it at the same time? That's kind of a real trick. So I can get my hand in here. Can't really do that, can I? Let's see what happens here. There we go. Alright, it is turning over. That is great news. And there's just crap and crud everywhere. It turns over. So, issue I probably should have checked right from the beginning to make sure this engine does turn over, but I felt pretty confident it would. Yes, it's been sitting, but, you know, I was hoping for the best. Turns over. It didn't feel stuck. It just, as soon as I turned the wrench, it turns. That is great news. So I'm going to buy some parts for this. Hopefully they are not too much delayed or on back order. Hopefully they'll come in soon because I'm ready to start placing stuff. I would love to hear this thing crank up. How much fun would that be? And we're close. I just need quite a few parts. And hopefully this engine didn't seize and it'll turn over. Probably something I should have checked from the very beginning. But I do want to drop some Marvel Mystery Oil into each cylinder head just to ensure that it's not seized and everything turns over. And I'm really still hoping this thing's going to turn over and crank. I'm still holding out hope. Little point of view from the fuel filter. I had to replace the fuel filter. And the tricky part was that bracket because the screw was on the back side of it. You can see that screw is on the back side of it. So what I ended up doing as an F1 was getting a pick, sticking it in the hole, and getting the bracket straight, and then kind of holding the bracket from the top to get that screw started. Not easy, because you can't really get to it from the back. It is right up against the inside of the frame rail. But that pick, it did help kind of orient the bracket correctly, and then I held it in place so I could get the screw started. Then I just connected the lines back. I mean, the fuel filter, it is a Wix filter. I got a Wix filter among whatever else I could have gotten just because I use Wix oil filters. I've read that and seen kind of studies that they are the best. So I figure their oil filters are good. Hopefully their fuel filters are good as well. And just with, as long as this gas is sat, just a good idea to go ahead and replace the fuel filter. I don't even know when the last one was replaced. So at this point, with what it is, just replace everything. That's what I'm doing, making sure everything will be good. Now I have looked at the lines. I don't see any lines that are crazy rusted out or anything. That is something to do, just to kind of follow the lines, make sure nothing looks crazy out of whack. It is not. That is good. I'm replacing the shocks, even though there are other things I probably should be doing instead of replacing shocks, like, making sure this thing will run again. But I just felt like replacing the shocks. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. So check out this shock. There's still a little bit of bushing there, just a little bit. But I like this KYB design a lot better because there's a metal sleeve within the bushing. There's no metal sleeve. That's an interesting design. Saves you some few dollars. You can tell, if you think this one does not look as long, that's because it won't extend back out. I compressed it and it doesn't come back out because that's why I'm replacing the shocks. So I like this design a lot better. These KYBs, they are KYB, what are they? KYB XLG. They do have a lifetime warranty, which sounds really good. I do like that the tube is not exposed like this one. Now on my passenger side rear shock, I can't completely install because I'm missing some nuts and bolts. They fell off a couple years ago. But I got parts plates. I'm going to get those. But yeah, just wanted to point out that design about how that doesn't have that metal sleeve. I mean, look at how that bushing just, it's gone. Completely gone. I mean, you can see it's ovaled out. And you can see that, if I'd probably driven a few more miles, I think that bushing would be gone completely. But this has metal sleeves, so that will stop that, which I like a lot. Just something curious. Now, these shocks came on the vehicle when I got it. I believe they are Beltec shocks. That's what I was told. I don't know. There's no branding or name on it, but this KYB, once that sticker falls off, there'll be no branding on that. Will there be? Is there any KYB? Does it say KYB somewhere? Oh, it does right there. But, so this was just a tie, when you buy the shock, it ties from top to bottom, so the shock remains compressed. Why I didn't cut that off, I have no idea. It's so strange. And I guess that's the case with anything when you get something somebody else has had. You just wonder, why did they do what they do? We may never know. Look at that brand new shock. The shock's not bad at all to install. I got the bottom one started first because it's easier to get that on there. And then try to orient the top and get those two bolts in there. Again, not bad at all. You can compress the shock to try to work it in there. But my other shock, I'm just missing some hardware from way back when. The nut, I'm sure I had it at some point. It may be on my shelf of parts somewhere, but I don't know where that is. The top nut and bolt, it fell out a long time ago, which is why I had the issue with it I did. But the rear shocks are in. I should be working on engine stuff, things more important, but you know what? I just wanted to replace the shocks. I don't know. Sometimes I do things that don't make sense, and this is one of them. I replaced the shocks. They look good, and I can't wait until this thing is driving so I can see how these work. Because for a long time I only had one shock, and it's blown. I don't know how long it's been blown, but for quite a while. I got this great lighting, but the hood blocks a lot of the lighting. I guess I potentially could try to string another light up just here. Would be nice. I'm ready to take one of these down. They are removable. Because that hood blocks all the light. But I'm replacing the spark plugs and the spark plug wires. I went with AC Delco. I've just always gone with the AC Delco. That is GM's kind of in-house brand. I've always gone with that for spark plugs, plug wires. General consensus, that is good. Here are my spark plugs. I went with the AC Delco Double Platinum. They were a little bit more, but there was a factory rebate on them, so they ended up not being that much more than, whatever. I can't remember what was it, like copper, platinum, iridium, something. The double platinum was kind of the balance of everything good. The plug wires, they are also AC Delco. Always had good luck with GM stuff. I've not unhooked the plug wires from before. You don't want to unhook everything and be like, all right, how does all this fit? That is a puzzle you don't want to mess with. So I've left all the plug wires, the existing ones, there, and I remove them one at a time, kind of verify the length and make sure everything matches up, and replace them one at a time. You don't want to get into a mess where you take them all off and then you have to figure it out, because all these are different lengths, and you just don't want to screw that up. I mean, that is something very specific. So I'm, like this short one. This is by far the shortest one, so that'll be easy to figure out. Some of these don't have a straight end as opposed to the angled end. Oh, there goes the radiator cap. So, those are kind of easy to figure out where they go. And you just go one at a time, figure it out, and that is exactly what I'll do. But yeah, AC Delco, I mean, that is what I've always gone with for spark plugs, plug wires. Hadn't steered me wrong yet, so I'm going to keep going with it. I guess I do have one more light. I had an 8-pack. I only needed 6. You only can plug 6 at a time. I just run an extension cord and maybe mount one to the, just under here. Let me look into that. Try that LED light. No, that is the same LED light I mounted to the thing in my shop. But man, look at the light in the engine bay. It is beautiful and amazing. And I understand, like the real answer is I just need a good shop light. Well, I don't have one right now. And I'm working on this right now. So this is why we are where we are. But this light is awesome. I don't know if it's quite sturdy enough to be a shop light. I mean, it's all plastic fantastic. It is an LED. It is bright. But it certainly kind of does the job. I've got it just clipped to the hood. It's relatively sturdy. These things are super lightweight. And this, man, this is going to make it quite a bit easier to see what's going on in this engine bay. I may see things I didn't even know were in here now. Certainly just make it easier overall to do everything I need to do. So that is awesome. That's good. I'm glad I thought of that. Good idea, me. Look at that. Beautiful. Well, I've replaced all the spark plug wires. I'd already disconnected them from the spark plug. I drew a diagram early on just because I didn't want anything to happen. But it's a pretty simple job. You unplug them from the distributor, which is right there. Trace it and pull it off. And then just compare whatever length I have. Make sure it's the right length and replace it. So all in all, easy job. And up next, I'll put the spark plugs in. And then I'll put in my diagram because I've kind of gotten them things out of order as to what goes where. I mean, I'm probably pretty confident that if I just look at whatever one is the longest, that's the farthest cylinder from the distributor and so on. But I'll look at my diagram just make sure I get things back as they are. So this is one of those things where you kind of have to go by feel because you can't see the spark plug hole, but you can feel where it is before you try to insert the spark plug, and then you know round about where you're going, and then you're going to kind of feel the spark plug insert into the hole because there's only one place you can go, so if you don't kind of feel it seat or go into the hole, well, you know you're not there. Go slowly, and then you don't want to super tighten this down, just enough. But yeah, and it's a tight fit because especially on this S10, there's the steering column is right. Not the steering column. What is this? It's probably the steering wheel. I'm trying to think what it is. The steering, whatever it is right in my way. So it is not the easiest of fits. And you know, so I don't do this enough. If I did this often, I'd kind of know what I need, what I don't need. So I was trying to use an extension and wrench it from behind the steering. God, is it steering rod? Steering rack? Not rack. Not rod. Maybe it's just steering column. I'm trying to think. I don't know. Then I would, if I did this often enough, I'd realize I can't go from behind the steering column because it doesn't fit. It's a little tight fit in here. And you do these things often. I'd figure these things out. I'd know better. And like right now, I'd taken my spark plug socket off so I could work around the steering rod. And of course now I'm having trouble getting my socket out. Well, that's the fun of doing this. Always something. Nice tight fit. Can't see anything, can't do anything. Nice thing is, at least with the spark plug, it's a little bit easier to get the boots on there because you can actually see what's going on. So let me see. Let me get a wrench and see if I can retrieve my socket. Because the bad thing is, I can't even get my wrench on there because there's not enough space for it to insert into the end of the socket. Man, everything's a tight fit. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see. Let's figure out what I can do here. This truck wants to eat my spark plug socket, and I really need that thing. And the problem is the extension, just the steering shaft. That's it, steering shaft. The steering shaft is right in front of the spark plug. Because of course it is. So this has been a barrel of fun. I mean, already hard to reach. The steering shaft, it is what it is. But the spark plugs fit in my spark plug socket so tightly that the wrench or the extension, that pulls out before it releases from the actual spark plug. So I've been using some angled needle nose pliers to actually get the spark plug socket out, and it's really tight fit. And so I get it out, and I've been using, this is a 5/8 spark plug. I've been using a 5/8 inch socket to tighten it all the way down. I'm using just an extension as a spark plug socket to get it started, and you'll feel it when it gets in the spark plug hole, and then I tighten it, and like that, and I tighten by hand with the spark plug socket itself. Getting a wrench just to make sure it's snug. I'm not trying to super tighten this down, just snug. And that's just what, like one, maybe half turn. And that's it. So then once I get that in there, I'm using the spark plug socket and an extension just so I can get it in there with my hand. But I don't know what it is about these spark plugs, but when these things, actually that one's probably the loosest one that's fit in there, but it's a really tight grip on it. I don't know why. And these spark plugs are just a little, like a 1/8 inch longer than my spark plug socket, so the extension can't go in there fully or else it'd push the spark plug out. Oh no, very strange. I don't know. I mean, I've never had this issue with any other spark plugs. Not that I've done a ton of spark plug jobs. I mean, just getting it in here has been fun. It's tight fit. Now I have been feeling in there to make sure where I think the hole is where I think it is. I've been right every time so far. Not that it's been a huge help with this cramped little engine bay. But you can kind of feel the spark plug seat in the hole, and then just make sure that you are kind of have it angled correctly so that the threads will catch, because if not, you're not going to get too far. And you should feel it seat and then feel it start to catch and thread in there. Not fun though, I'll tell you what. Now, would I take the engine out just to do the spark plugs? No, that seems a bit extreme. Did I consider it especially when I was dealing with the steering shaft? Yeah, I considered it. And that steering shaft, it is right in front of the spark plug. So if you've dealt with this and you got like a cool fix, I mean, maybe it's just one of those flexible extensions, maybe that'll do it. But man, if you got some suggestions, I'd be happy to hear them. And of course, my extension comes out before the socket because, man, that socket the spark plugs are tight. These angled nano pliers, they are awesome. Getting them off quite a bit easier than it would be by doing it by hand. And now I'm going to go to 5/8 socket so I don't get such a tight grip on there. Make sure the thing is on there just snug. That's all we want, is snug. And that is it. All the spark plugs are in. Next, just need to connect the spark plug boots to the spark plugs. And that aspect is complete, which will be good. So I got all the spark plug wires on, and you want to make sure you hear a kind of a pop as they seat correctly. If you don't hear that pop, you don't feel them clicking in place, they're not in place. I did put dielectric grease on each one. I just used a wooden skewer. Man, these things are awesome in the shop. You'll use them for so many different things. Don't use the pointy end. Use the square off end. Because the nice thing is it's wood, so it's not sharp enough to cut the boot or do anything, and you can kind of get in that tight spot. Works great. A little bit of dielectric grease. Again, you don't have to. It will help in the long run. That's done. I'm glad it is, tight spot. Don't like that. So now that that's done, I need to look at my fuel pump. I ordered a fuel pump and got a Walbro fuel pump. I need to figure out how that works because I'm not sure it's exactly plug and play. I'm hoping it is. I don't know. I haven't looked at it. That's next. And once the fuel pump's in place, I need to clean out my gas tank. Once the gas tank's cleaned out, and I put the new fuel pump in, put the gas tank back in place, I think we're ready to see this thing will live once again and crank. I really hope it does, because if not, what's the problem? You know, and then you gotta go back to checking your basics. Fuel, air, spark. We're making progress. Probably should be done by now, but it's not.